All right, you guys. So, welcome to Unit 1, Day 1. This is our introduction to statistics. Okay. All right. Now, remember, as you start taking notes, if you need to pause the video, please feel free to do so. There will be moments in time that this video will naturally stop and ask you to answer questions along the way to see whether or not you are understanding what's being presented to you. All right. So, let's get started. All right, so what are statistics? So, statistics are calculations made from data to help understand the world, okay? Right now, you guys, if you're watching the news or if you're on social media, you can see there's a lot of data being presented on the pandemic, okay? And so we're just going to start to kind of really look at different ways that you can interpret that data, how you can collect that data, and start getting some of your vocabulary built up. All right, so for right now, we're going to be looking at two different types of data. So we're going to be looking at what's called population data and sample data. Okay, population data, that is data that is used when you are gathering information from the entire group of interest. Okay, so you want to think about the entire high school. Okay, that would be considered the population. And then when I've got this sample data, okay, if you can see my mouse, okay, it says data that is used when you're gathering information from a portion of the group of interest. So let's just say you only sample the junior class, okay? So they're only a part of the entire population at the URE Charter High School, okay? So you've got population, you've got sample. All right, so let's just look at some additional examples of that. Okay. All right. And if you're looking at my icon, so the words, I just said that to you, but if you look at the icon, so look how it says population, the icon, there's the world. Okay. And then the sample, I've got just the continent of Africa. Okay. So that's another way of looking at population and sample. So population's your entire world. And then your sample is if I were to just look at the continent of Africa. All right, so on these next three sides, I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm just going to read them to you, and then the video will naturally pause and ask you a question about it. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to look at these next three, and you're going to decide whether or not I'm giving you an example of a population or am I giving you an example of a sample. All right, so our first example, it says the U.S. government takes a census of its citizens every 10 years to gather information. So is this a sample? Is this a population? All right, number two, you want to know what sports teens prefer. So you send out a survey to all the students in your high school. Is this a population? Is this a sample? All right, number three, you want data on the shoe size at UCA. So you interview every student at UCA. Is this a population? Is this a sample? All right, so let's look at types of descriptive measure. Okay, now secretly, this is just new vocabulary. All right, so it says statistic. Statistic is a descriptive measure computed from a sample of data. Okay, and then we've got parameter. A parameter is a descriptive measure computed from an entire population of data. I've got a couple of spelling errors on here that I'll fix. Okay, all right. There's a really easy way to remember how do these pair up because notice I've used the word sample again, I've used the word population again. So if you look at sample, okay, what letter does it start with? So sample goes with statistic, okay? Look at population, starts with a P. It goes with parameter, okay? So instead of saying population and sample, I can say parameter statistic. All right, so let's look at these situations. Okay, the same thing. Next three slides. Do you have a parameter? Do you have a statistic? You want to know the average height of people in this math class. So we have everyone. So everyone in class will write down their height on a sheet of paper. Is this a parameter or a statistic? All right, number two. The Literary Digest polled 2.3 million adults in the US, and 57% said they would vote in the upcoming election. Is this a parameter or a statistic? All right, last one. You want to know the mean income of people who subscribe to your YouTube channel. So you ask 100 of your subscribers. Note, you currently have 1 million subscribers. Is this a parameter or a statistic? All right, so let's look at the statistical process, okay? Now, this is not something that you absolutely have to remember at this moment, but it's just kind of going through, what happens? How do we even start the process of looking at statistics? All right, so we're going to start with a topic question. Okay, so basically what I just gave you, all those different examples, okay, that's a topic that we want to study. Okay, then we look at our population. Okay, are we going to be able to ask everyone in that population the question, or are we going to have to just take a piece of the population and ask them our topic question or survey them, however we're going to do this? Talk about that more. All right, sampling method. Okay, that's what I was talking about. How am I going to sample that population? Okay, how am I going to decide who am I going to survey if I was going to do a survey? All right. And then we take our statistics. That's where we do all the fun math and we actually apply it. And there's all these great programs out there that'll actually do the statistics for us. All right. And then depending on what our topic question was, okay, we may end up applying that result to the population. Okay. All right. So let's look here. Okay. So we have ways that we can gather data. Okay. The first way is a survey. Okay. So you should know what a survey is. You may actually have participated in a survey. So it's a questionnaire used to collect data on a certain topic from a sample. Okay. You've got an observational study. Okay. That's where we observe individuals and we measure variables of interest, but we do not influence their responses. Okay. So we don't try to alter it in any way. All right, and then there's what's called an experiment. Okay, that's where we take individuals and randomly assign a treatment to them in order to observe their response. Okay, so let's look at examples of survey, observational study, and experiment. All right, so an example of a survey. Okay, you want to find out how many students in your class had a summer job. Okay, so you would survey them. Okay. All right, a study. Okay, this is when someone, maybe I, Mrs. Barfield, asked her class to write down all the food they ate in one day and calculate the total number of calories consumed. Okay, there's nothing influential about that. Okay, I'm not going up to one student and saying, hey, I want to make sure that before I ask you this question that you eat at McDonald's, and then go to another student and say, hey, I need you to eat at Burger King. It's just you coming in, say tomorrow, and you writing down everything you ate on Sunday. Okay, I have no way of controlling that. Okay, and then I will observe what happens. Okay. All right. An experiment. All right. So here's an example. It's called the Pepsi Challenge. So it was in the 80s. Pepsi had a huge marketing campaign that had people do a blind test to see which soda they preferred, Coke or Pepsi. Okay. Fun fact, I actually participated in that challenge. I believe I was at a theme park. And I honestly, I can't tell you what I picked. I can't tell you if I picked Coke or Pepsi. But basically what happened was is I had, just 2 cups of soda in front of me and I just had to drink it. I had no idea which one was Pepsi and I had no idea which one was Coke. All right. Now, just kind of something to think about to yourself. You're trying to figure out if maybe it's the difference between an observational or an experiment. Okay. It's about whether or not you got to choose. Okay. If you get to choose, okay, and you say yes, like, yes, I got to choose, that's going to be an observation because you don't have to participate in my study. Same thing with a survey. You don't have to participate. All right. If you don't get to choose, okay, it's an experiment. Okay. Like the Pepsi challenge. I didn't get to choose Coke or Pepsi and then tell them which one I preferred. They just gave me both sodas and said, here you go, try it. All right. So which method? So I'm going to give you 3 examples, I believe. I want you to identify what method was used to gather the data described in each slide. Okay. And once again, remember, it's okay to be wrong. You're learning. All right, you want to know the average GPA of a football player at the school this year. Okay, so would that be a survey? Would that be an observational approach? Or would that be an experiment? Okay, number two, does working on Chromebooks improve student performance? Okay, so here's just another fact you might need to know. Half the group was given a Chromebook, the other half was given a piece of paper. So is that a survey, an observation, or an experiment? Okay, make sure you read this one closely or you think about it. Medical records were used to determine if there is a correlation between inducing labor and autism in children. Is that a survey? Is that an observation? Or is that an experiment? Okay. All right, and I believe, yes, it does. This brings us to the end of our introduction to statistics, okay? Your next video is going to go a little bit more in depth into sampling methods, okay? And that video is actually not done by me, so bear with me.